الذي خلقنا لعبادته وحده لا شريك له ووعد من امتثل بأوامره بجزاء حسن وقال في محكم تنزيله ولقد بعثنا في كل أمة رسولا أن اعبدوا الله واجتنبوا الطاغوت وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له قيوم السماوات والأراضين بعث نبيه محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم رحمة للعالمين وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله بلغ حقيقة رسالة ربه وأفضل الأمانة ونصح للأمة وجاهد لله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين فسبحانك اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أما بعد، إخواني في الله وأخواتي في الإسلام، أوصي نفسي وإياكم بتقوى الله عز وجل وبعدم إسيانه، فلقد قال لي ولكم تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا والعاقبة للمتقين. عباد الله، إن الله تبارك وتعالى لما خلقنا لم يتركنا هملا، بل بعث إلينا مواسم الطاعات، فمن اغتنم تلك المواسم فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Brothers and sisters in Islam, we thank the Almighty Allah for giving us an opportunity to be here. We thank Him for His mercies that He's bestowed upon us. We bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except the Almighty Allah. We also bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. Whosoever the Almighty Allah guides is really guided, and anybody who goes astray has nobody to blame but themselves. Today is a Friday, the 5th day of Zulhijjah, 1444 years after the hijrah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It also corresponds with, I believe, on the 23rd day of June 2023. It is a known fact to every Muslim that the Almighty Allah created us for a sole purpose, which is to worship Him and Him alone. That is why He said in Surah Al-Dhariyat, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِّن رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينُ. That the purpose for the creation of jinn and human being is إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Imam Ibn Abbas says إِلَّا لِيُوَحِّدُونَ. That's the meaning, that they should worship Him and Him alone. The Almighty Allah doesn't need anything from us. And this concept of worship of the Almighty Allah, it's even a demand from the Almighty Allah to us. It is not as if we choose to do it when we want or how we want, but we do it because He demands that from us, and then we do it the way that He, the Almighty Allah, wants. After creating us and then ordering us to worship Him, He didn't leave us just like that. He gave us milestones through which we can always go back to Him and then worship Him. So if you observe the Muslim calendar, our calendar, almost every month there is a special form of ibadah that the Almighty Allah entreats us to do through the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, we have 13, 14, and 15 Siyam Ayyam al-Bid. We have fasting of Mondays and Thursdays. We have fasting of Yawm Arafah. We have fasting of Yawm Ashura. We have all these spread across the calendar that help us to get back to the Almighty Allah. That is why it's very, very important as a Muslim, you really know the Islamic calendar. Know it inside out. You don't have any option. Excuse me, it's scandalous if as a Muslim you don't know your calendar. Because this calendar is our source of ibadah. It helps us to know when it is time for Ramadan. It helps us to know when it is time for Hajj. For example, we are in the best time of the year. The hadith of Jabir found in Sahih Bukhari tells us the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, there are no days that good deeds are more beloved to the Almighty Allah than these 10 days that we are in now. And the Sahaba were like, Ya Rasulullah, walal jihad fi sabilillah. Even if it is jihad fi sabilillah, the Prophet said, yes, walal jihad fi sabilillah. Even if it is jihad fi sabilillah, except a man who goes out on the path of the Almighty Allah, which is life and then his wealth, and then none of the two return back. He is the only person better than you when you do good deeds in this time of the year. But if you don't know that Zulhijjah has set in, how will you be able to profit from these days? So it's important as a Muslim, you know which months we are in, which are the days. You know, it is scandalous if a Muslim is only concerned about the Julian Gregorian calendar, but he knows nothing about his Islamic calendar. Let me just give you a brief history of the Julian Gregorian calendar so you know what you're dealing with. In 4 BC, Augustus Caesar added 2 months to the calendar that we use today. The Romans and the Greeks had only 10 months in their calendar. The year starts from March, it ends in December. In 4 BC, Augustus Caesar added 2 months. He added January and February. And January is from a Roman god called Janus, which had 2 phases. One phase was bidding farewell to the old year, and the other phase was welcoming the new year. So if as a Muslim, if you go around 31st December celebrating, that's what you're doing. You are celebrating the Roman god called Janus, which has 2 phases. February from Februas. March from Mars, the god of war. April from Aprulus or Aphrodite. May from Maia. June from Juno. July from Julius Caesar. August from Augustus Caesar. September means the 7th month. October 8th month. November 9th month. And December 10th month. That is what we are celebrating. But then as a Muslim, if you find yourself in a non-Muslim majority country, there's nothing you can do. We use this day to get our checks. We use this day, and that's normal. But then to follow it to the T, where every form of religious festival on this calendar is, you find Muslims running around. They say St. Valentine's Day, Muslims are running around. They say Christmas Day, Muslims are running around. They say 31st December, Muslims are running around. You have no business with that. Use it 23rd June to cash your check, and that's it. But then for it to be a source of inspiration, a source of festivity, that's a very big question mark, Muslims. And we need to teach the younger ones this, because that is our identity as Muslims. This is who we are. And when we take out this identity from the Muslim home, we have a lot of headaches. And you know very well that we live in times whereby identity is the war now. Who are you? Are you a he, or you are a she, or you are a they, or you are a them? This is where we are now. And as Muslims, you can't close your eyes and say this doesn't concern me. It concerns you, because your kids are in the public schools. Your kids are out there in the street. Your kids have access to Facebook. They have access to Twitter. They have access to all these things. So if you don't build in your house a sound Islamic environment, you will be only feeding the tummies of your kids, and someone outside is filling their brains and then their souls. So just by the way, as Muslims, we need to be aware of our calendar. We need to know what's going on. We need to know what's happening. We need to understand the realities of the dunya. We need to understand that we are here purposely to worship the Almighty Allah. And the Almighty Allah has given us instances and times whereby we can worship Him. And the best time of the year is in these days. And today is the 5th day. We have 5 more days to go. So if you are not aware that we are in the best time of the year of our calendar, today is a reminder for myself and all of us that these days are days where we need to fasten our seat belts. These are the days where we need to get closer to the Almighty Allah. These are the days where we need to sit up and get counted when the Almighty Allah is spreading His mercies to us. We need to get up. We need to wake up. We need to get closer to the Almighty Allah. And for me, one of the things we can do in these days, number one, is a lot of tawbah and istighfar. It's very, very important. All of us. And tawbah is not for sinners. Tawbah is for the believers. The Almighty Allah says, وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. So don't think that, oh, as for me, I'm a Muslim, I come to the masjid 5 times a day, I do this, I don't need to do tawbah. No, you need to do tawbah and istighfar every day. And you know the hadith where the Prophet Muhammad is recorded to have been doing istighfar 70 to 100 times in a single sitting. No, not the whole day, guys. Not the whole day. In a single sitting. He sits at one place to discuss some things with the Sahaba. They hear him do istighfar between 70 and 100 times. After Asr, he sits in another place. They hear him do istighfar 70 to 100 times. If the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his tongue is always moving with istighfar, then you and I, we need to do more. It's very, very important. And I always say this. The problem is that our istighfar itself is problematic. The istighfar that we do, it's problematic. That's the only thing you hear. Smile, 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 smile. Hamna, 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 hamna. That's the only thing we do. Imam Ali came into the masjid and then he found a man doing istighfar the way you and I do istighfar. He told him, istighfaruka hadha yahtaju ila istighfar. So this is your istighfar. You need to do a new istighfar so the Almighty Allah will clean the sin of this istighfar that you are doing. Let me give you an example. You get a parking ticket, you go to the courts to go and defend your case. You take your time. You even open the dictionary to find the right words to speak to the judge. Your Honor, yes, I know I shouldn't park there, but then my wife has been hospitalized. I need to go and pick the kids at the daycare. So I was rushing upstairs to pick something. So I parked there. I know I'm wrong, but then it's the circumstances and the situation. You take your time to explain your case to the judge. But then you come in front of the creator of the heavens and the earth, and then you're not disciplined. And your mind is somewhere. Your thoughts are running somewhere, that you don't sit down to give the Almighty Allah 10 minutes after Fajr or after Zuhr or after Asr to sit down to do the ma'thurat, to do the adhkar very, very well. Where are you going? I have a business meeting. And the one who is going to endorse the business meeting is in the masjid. He is Allah. He is going to endorse your business meeting. That multi-million-dollar contract that you are looking for, it's the Almighty Allah who is going to endorse it. And then you are here in His presence, and then you are in a hurry to go out to who? Who is out there who is going to help you? Who is out there who is going to endorse it? There is nobody, it's Allah. So brothers and sisters, we need to have time, quality time. We should be in the presence of the Almighty Allah. We should be there. Our minds, our hearts, our souls should be in the time with the Almighty Allah. إِنَّ هَذَا لَذِكْرٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. That it is an admonishment for the person who has a heart, who is present, and who has the ears to listen. So tawbah, istighfar, is very, very, very important for us in these days. And then let's take our time. Istighfar is very, very important. Al-Hasan al-Basri was in class teaching his students, and then someone came in and said, Ya Taqiyuddin, the economy is very, very bad. He said, Alayka bistighfar. Another person came in and said, Ya Taqiyuddin, I want to get married, but then the situation is very tough. He said, Alayka bistighfar. Another man came and said, Ya Taqiyuddin, I'm a farmer and there are no rains. He said, Alayka bistighfar. Another person comes and says, Ya Taqiyuddin, I'm a businessman, but then the caravan routes are not safe. He said, Alayka bistighfar. After they had left, the students were like, Ya Taqiyuddin, what happened? These guys came with different problems. This guy came with a headache. This guy came with a stomach ache. This guy came with leg ache. This guy came with a back ache. And you gave all of them Advil. What happened? He said, haven't you people read the Quran where the Almighty Allah said, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا وَيُمْدِدُكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ جَنَّاتٍ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ أَنْهَارًا مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَرْجُونَ لِلَّهِ وَقَارًا وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَطْوَارًا. We do istighfar, the Almighty Allah forgives us our sins. We do istighfar, He sends down rain. We do istighfar, He gives us kids. We do istighfar, He gives us money. We do istighfar, He gives us streams. Whatever we want from the Almighty Allah, let's associate it with istighfar, and Almighty Allah is going to grant us that. So in these 10 days, 5 more to go, let's not forget the concept of istighfar, and then reading the Quran, doing La ilaha illallah, getting closer to the Almighty Allah. أقول ما تسمعون واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله ما بعد. We are speaking about the best days of the year. And Almighty Allah speaks about these days in the Quran where He says, وَالْفَجْرِ وَلَيَالٍ عَشْرٍ, that these days are the best days according to the hadith of Jabir narrated by Imam Bukhari in his Sahih, that there is no good deed more beloved to the Almighty Allah than these days, than good deeds done in these days. In another riwayah or a lot of riwayah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam uses different words. He says, Ahabbu ilallah, most beloved to the Almighty Allah. He says, Arja ilallah, most endearing to the Almighty Allah. He says, Azka ilallah, the most pious to the Almighty Allah. So these days are very, very, very important, brothers and sisters, that we need to get closer to the Almighty Allah. I know Eid is at the back of our minds. It's also a very important day. But before the day of Eid, we have Yawm Arafah. Let's not forget, that is Tuesday. Let's not forget Yawm Arafah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says fasting on the day of Arafah is expiation for the sin of 2 years. The previous year and then the upcoming year. So it's also another opportunity for us to gain some bonuses from the Almighty Allah, where the Almighty Allah forgives us our sins. So please don't forget, let's fast on Tuesday. On the day of Eid, we all know that there are a lot of activities, religious ones, that the Almighty Allah has ordained on us. And key amongst them is the sacrifice. But let's understand one thing. Let's take our time in the sacrifice. And let's let the experts who know how to sacrifice for us. If you don't know it, how to do it, get someone who knows how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, don't force it and then do it in a way that is not merciful to the animal. Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very, very concerned about the sacrifice of animals, where he said we should sharpen our knives so that it will be easier on the animals. So going to get a blunt knife and then no. Or you don't even know the right place to cut. So it's very, very important that we take this into note. But then, what concerns me the most is not only the act of slaughtering the animals, but then what intentions do we do with it? What I mean is that as we sacrifice the animals, what lessons are we picking from the Eid of sacrifice? Because the Almighty Allah says, لَا يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا. The Almighty Allah is not interested in the blood or in the meat. وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. What He's concerned is about your piety, your consciousness. So if when you slaughter the animals, you're sacrificing. We go back to history. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam started this. And what was the story? He was ordered to slaughter his son by the Almighty Allah. Save the son with a ram. So Ibrahim was willing to sacrifice the most important thing to him, which was his son. He didn't have any child. He was more than 90 years old and no child. And then he gets a son who is going to inherit him. And then Almighty Allah tells him to sacrifice the boy. What did Ibrahim say? He said, Yallah, Bismillah. There is no two ways about it. And then when he told his son that this is what the Almighty Allah has ordered him, he said, Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar. Oh, daddy, do what the Almighty Allah orders you. So as we sacrifice those animals, what of our desires are we willing to sacrifice for the Almighty Allah? What are we willing to do for the Almighty Allah? Is it just we sacrifice, we get the meat, we fry the meat, or we boil, we grill, and then we eat, and then that's it? Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was willing to sacrifice his own son for the Almighty Allah. We are not ordered to sacrifice our kids now, no. But then we have other things that are dearer to us that we must sacrifice. Our whims, our desires, our caprices. These are important things that we must be very careful of. Harun al-Rashid or Umar bin Abdul Aziz, who happened to be Khalifa, and you all know his story. He was considered Khamis Khulafa al-Rashidin, the fifth of the four guided caliphs. On the eve of Eid, his children came to him and they said, Ya Abana, our father, we don't have clothes to wear to Eid tomorrow. And then he was the Khalifa. Imagine the Khalifa, his kids do not have new dresses to wear to Eid the following day. He checked into his pocket. There was no money. He checked into his safe. There was no money. At that time, the Secretary of the Treasury has come to you. He said, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I can see you don't have money, but if you want, we'll loan you some money from the Bayt al-Mal. So when the month ends up and then you receive your salary, you can return the loan back." And then Umar ibn Abdul Aziz told him, "Wayhak, did you spy into the Lawh al-Mahfuz to see that I'll be alive until next month and then I'll take my pay and then pay you back?" He said, "No." And then he turned to his kid and he said, "لَيْسَ الْعِيدْ لِمَنْ لَبِسَ الْجَدِيدِ وَلَكِنَّ الْعِيدْ مَنْ خَافَ الْوَعِيدِ." Eid is not about wearing new clothes. Eid is about being concerned about your meeting with Almighty Allah. So as we prepare for Eid, what is going on in our minds? What are we willing to sacrifice for ourselves and for our communities? What are we willing to do so that other people will have the peace of mind to live their lives? What are we doing so that Muslims around us will feel comfortable? What are we doing so that the deen of the Almighty Allah will gain power, will gain dominance on the surface of the earth? When I listen to these stories or when I read it, my mind goes to Surah An-Naml, where you have two animals that have taught us the concept of sacrifice. Hudhud was concerned about Tawheed and Aqidah. So he said, لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم أحطت بما لم تحط به وجئتك من سبأ بنبأ يقين إني وجدت امرأة تملكهم وأوتيت من كل شيء ولها عرش عظيم وجدتها وقومها يسجدون للشمس من دون الله وزين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم فصدهم عن السبيل فهم لا يهتدون. Hudhud was concerned that these people do not worship the Almighty Allah. And then he was concerned, how is he going to send them the message of Tawheed and Aqidah? As Muslims today, living in a predominantly non-Muslim community, how well are we sending the message of Islam to the non-Muslims that are around us? What is our relationship with our non-Muslims at workplace? Is it business as usual, or we epitomize the real Islam that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us? Are non-Muslims in awe of us? Are non-Muslims ready to listen to us? Are non-Muslims always concerned about Islam when they are around us? Or it's as usual? They are drinking alcohol, we're drinking with them. They are fornicating, we are fornicating with them. They are gambling, we are gambling with them. Is that it? Are we ready to sacrifice our whims and our caprices so that we manifest Aqidah in the community? That was Hudhud's concern. That these people do not worship the Almighty Allah. How will I send them the message of Tawheed and Aqidah? So as we sacrifice the animals on Wednesday, how well are we sending out the message of Islam? That these non-Muslims at least will feel the fragrance of Islam. Not the fragrance of the grilled meat, but the fragrance of Islam. That when Muslims are being bashed on the media, does your colleague, your co-worker say, "No, my co-worker is a Muslim and this is not his attitude. This is not his lifestyle." I'm not saying we must seek appreciation from them. No, we don't seek appreciation from anybody. But then we put in place the kind of attitudes and lifestyles that every positive thinking human being will look at us and say, "No, those Muslims or those people, that's not how they are." The second animal is the ant. Small animal, the smallest of animals. What happens? حتى إذا أتوا على واد النمل قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون. She was concerned about the survival of her community. She said, "Oh, community of ants, hurry up and enter into your holes. Sulaiman and his soldiers are coming. If you do not enter your holes, they're going to trample upon you and kill you and break you into pieces." She was concerned about the socio-economic development of her community. As Muslims, how well are we concerned about the security in our neighborhoods, about the development in our neighborhoods, about the infrastructure facelift of our neighborhoods? These are all parts of things that as Muslims we must sit down and then think. Finally, what is my relationship with you? What am I willing to sacrifice for you personally? What of my good things or what of my luxuries I'm willing to put aside so that you will benefit in this dunya? I think this is something that Muslims are lacking now. Ananiya and selfishness has entered into our ranks. The Muslim is only concerned about his survival. Everybody else should die. He doesn't care. I always ask myself this question. On the night of Hijrah, why did Imam Ali radiallahu anhu agree to sleep on the bed of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he knew very well that the kuffar were plotting to kill the Prophet, and anybody who sleeps on the Prophet's bed that night is a dead body? The Prophet said, Atanamu fi firashi al-yawma ya Ali. Ali, will you sleep on my bed today? He said, Nafsi laka al-fida ya Rasulallah. He said, Ya Rasulallah, I will sacrifice my life for you. Are you willing to put your safety and your security and your life on the line for Muslims? وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصًا. They put other people's needs in front of theirs, even though they also have their own personal needs. When the Sahaba migrated to Medina, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ issued a social policy where he made brotherhood between people from Mecca and the people of Medina. He joined Abdurrahman bin Auf for Mecca with Sa'd ibn Rabi al-Ansari for Medina. What did Sa'd say? Sa'd said, Ya Abdurrahman, I'm the richest man in Medina. I'm going to split my properties into two. I give you 50%, you take 50%. I have two wives. You are going to look at the one you want amongst them. And if she pleases you, I'm going to divorce her. After her iddah, you're going to marry her. I don't think you guys heard me very well. He said he has two wives. And he is willing to give his one wife to him. And it's not that he is going to divorce one he wants. No, he, Abdurrahman bin Auf, is going to look at the two wives of Sa'd ibn Rabi al-Ansari, and he is going to choose. And he said, Barakallahu laka fi malika wa ahlik. Dullani ala suq. He said, may the Almighty Allah bless you in your wives and then your family and then your wealth. Show me the direction of the market. Sa'd ibn Rabi al-Ansari was willing to sacrifice what he has for Abdurrahman bin Auf. But Abdurrahman bin Auf was not willing to take advantage of the what? Of the situation. He was also willing to get his own. My brothers and sisters, our time is fast spent. I leave with you some things. The first one, the Islamic calendar is very, very important. We need to learn it. We need to teach our kids. Number two, these days are the best days of the year. Let's strive and get closer to the Almighty Allah. Do a lot of tawbah, do a lot of dhikr, do a lot of reading of the Quran. On Tuesday, there is Yawm Arafah. Let's try as much as possible to fast on the day of Arafah. On the day of Eid, in slaughtering the animals, let's be very, very merciful to the animals. If you don't know how to do it, there are people who are expert butchers, let them do it for you. And then finally, as we slaughter these animals, our mindset, our sacrifices, what are we sacrificing? What are we giving out? For me, the best takeaway in these times is how willing I am, or am I, to put you and your needs before mine. And this is why the Sahaba were able to conquer the known world, because other people's needs they put in front of theirs. They are always willing to let other people have it, and then they will what? They will deny themselves that. And the Almighty Allah speaks about them in the Quran, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصًا. They always put other people's needs before theirs, even though they are in need of that. May the Almighty Allah grant us success in this dunya and the akhirah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا إنك جامع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. اللهم إنا عبيدك بنو أبيدك بنو إمائك نواصينا بيدك ماض فينا حكمك نسألك بكل اسم هو لك سميت به نفسك أو أنزلته في كتابك أو علمته أحدا من خلقك أو استأثرت به في العلم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلوبنا ونور صدورنا وجلاء أحزاننا وذهاب همومنا وغمومنا برحمتك يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. قوموا إلى صلاتكم رحمكم الله.